welcome to our April Elevate Professional Learning webinar, Arts Integration and Enhancement Planning with Jessica Wagner. I'm Dr. Cynthia Williams-Phelps, Director of Professional Learning for Missouri Alliance for Arts Education. Thank you for joining us today. Here are a few reminders for our webinar today. Today's presentation is recorded for future use. If you don't wish your image to be visible, please turn off your camera. Breakout session interactions are not recorded. And please remember to mute your microphone. Enter your questions, comments, and responses in the chat. So in the chat, a couple things. Lauren Hanahan has added a link for you to sign in to our webinar. So we know everyone who's here today. And then also in the chat, add what has inspired you to be here today. And then again, use the link in the chat or use the QR code on the screen. So thank you all for joining us today. We are excited about this presentation. Our goal and mission through the Elevate Professional Learning series is to elevate teaching and learning for all educators and students through equipping arts-centered learning, empowering vision for arts education, amplifying artistic teaching practices, and engaging arts education opportunities for all students. So at this time, Lauren Hanahan will lead us through a reflective warm-up process. Lauren is our Arts Across the Curriculum and Professional Learning Specialist. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. So I'm going to introduce it first, and then I will have you guys share out for me. So I'm going to talk to you. Sometimes I just throw you right in and let you figure it out, but I'm going to give you a little context for this one. So this is a artful thinking strategy. It's called Step Inside. And so for this one, I'm going to share an image with you shortly. And this is going to be from the most recent space mission, Artemis 2. So I don't know if anybody else was carefully watching all of that and excited about all of that like I was. But we are going to take a minute to just step inside as if we were there. But we're going to look at it from the perspective of anything in this image. So the first thing you're going to do is just take a minute of close looking. Let your eyes just wander all around the image. So you're going to start at the top, move around the sides, kind of down the frame, in the middle. Just absorb the whole frame. And then you're going to choose if you would like to be maybe one of the astronauts in the spaceship, if you want to be one of the objects in the image, and you're going to step inside that point of view. So you're going to consider, what would this person or thing perceive or feel in this moment? What might this person or thing know or believe? And what might this person or thing care about? So those are kind of the three big things you're going to be thinking about. So first, close looking. Then you're going to choose a person or thing to step inside and take the perspective of. And then third, you're going to kind of perceive, know, and care about. What are the things they perceive, know, and care about? So now we're going to go to the next slide to see the image. I'm going to give you a quiet minute of close looking. This image is captured from the Orion spacecraft. So we can assume that the astronauts are inside. So we're going to count them as people in this. So you can be one of them. You could be the spacecraft. But this is also showing the moon and then a crescent Earth in the background, like in a tiny faraway area. So you've got the Earth, you've got the moon, you've got craters on the moon, you've got the empty space around the spaceship Orion, and then we can assume the astronauts inside. So take a minute of close looking, decide which object or thing you would want to be the perspective of, and then what would they perceive and feel? What might they know about or believe? And what might they care about? I'm going to put those questions in the chat so that you have those to kind of look back at. Take about 10 more seconds of close looking. And if you haven't already started to think about your person or object, you're going to move on to that part. You'll probably get really deep. So if there's only one part of those three that you really want to focus on, go ahead and just think of one of those. We'll share out in about 30 seconds. Would anybody like to share out with the group which person or object you chose? And then you could share one or all of the questions you were able to answer.
I can share.
Great. Go ahead, Diane.
Hi, everybody. I'm the man in the moon. And I'm just tickled pink that this metal thing is just circling around me. And I think there must be somebody in there looking down at me. Anyway, I say I'm tickled pink. I'm actually gray, but you know the expression. So anyway, I think it's really one of the most exciting things that's ever happened because this object is looking at me from a whole different perspective. And really, I love hanging around up here because I get to look at the beautiful earth all the time. But it does worry me because I hear that the people down there really are kind of messing things up with the environment, and I sure hope they get their act together. So, over and out. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Diane. Would anybody else like to share out?
I was thinking about the perspective of the astronauts, and just even listening to their stories. But if from my perspective, as an astronaut on the Artemis, just taking in the awesomeness and vastness of space and having that experience and taking all of the things that I have trained for and implementing them to make sure that not only are we staying on course for the mission, but staying safe, but also just taking in as much as I can in this experience and being, I guess, overwhelmed with this experience that not very many people, we get to see pictures, but not many people actually get to be immersed in that actual experience. So that is from my perspective.
Great. Can we get maybe one more?
I can share.
Great.
So I was gonna stay quiet because I know I share a lot. So I was gonna try to give someone else a chance, but I can jump in if that. So I also chose the moon, but I had a very different ex in perspective on that, and that I felt like this was a very deep, dark, secret part of me that is being seen for the first time. And it feels very intimate and even a little invasive because I'm used to being alone and independent and keeping that part of me to just simply myself. And to all of a sudden have that exposed is a little bit, well, quite scary, really. And I know it's going to be shared now with everybody on that planet that I see every day. And I know it's going to be taken in numerous different ways, depending on who sees it. And that's scary.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for sharing that out. I mean, that brings up a great point that two different people can look at the same thing and step in and have a different, consider a different feeling or perspective, or think they might care about a different thing. And so this kind of makes me think about like characters, for instance. If this was a literacy class and we stepped in to to different characters in a book. And then maybe we let the kids group together by all the kids that picked the moon. Let's come together, and then they can talk and they can negotiate and they can debate and they can kind of say, well, why did you think it was this way versus that way, and kind of talk through it. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of take this and tie it into your literacy content, your science content, but let kids kind of come at it from a space where, a place where they get to step in and jump in with their own thoughts and ideas and perspectives, and then work as a team and collaborate as a team to kind of bounce ideas off each other and build something even stronger potentially through that. So thank you guys for sharing out. Thank you for participating. And I'm going to pass it off to, I guess I'll send it over to Jessica next.
So I'm going to introduce Jessica. And Lauren, thank you so much for leading us through that exercise. That's a great way to look, like you said, look at different perspectives and step into a different lens. So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's webinar. Jessica Wagner is the Fine Arts Coordinator for Springfield Public Schools and the Administration Supervisor Representative for the Missouri Art Education Association. Now in her 17th year in public education, Jessica's experience spans the entire building, from the elementary art room as a teacher to the front office as an elementary principal and assistant principal. So thank you, Jessica, for joining us today. I will stop sharing so that you can share yours.
So thank you guys so much for being here. Cynthia, thank you so much for introducing me. She mentioned all the things on this screen, except I do have what I like to jokingly call music adjacent experience. So as a fine arts coordinator, I get the pleasure of supporting theater, music, and visual arts K-12 in my district. But I have performed to music my whole life. So between color guard and dance, I've either been the performer or coached it. And so I always joke that I'm music adjacent through those experiences. So I would love to get to know a little bit about you guys here on the next slide, but here's a little overview of our plan for today. We are gonna, based on your input on the next slide, review what our integration versus arts enhancement is. I'll go as deep into that as I need to based on your level of understanding. And then we'll jump into the planning processes that I've led people through before. There is not one way to do it, but these are just kind of the tools and tips I've gained over the years. And then there'll be plenty of time for Q&A. And honestly, I'm comfortable at any moment for you to pause me and ask a question live in my presentation, because I want this to be directly fitted to your needs. But you may have to just blurt out because I can't see all of your faces on the screen. So just unmute and jump in at any moment if you need to. And then I will just review a little bit of upcoming learning in our state if you want to dig deeper, happening this summer. So to help me get to know you guys a little bit better, will you pop into the chat two things? One is this scale of where your comfort level is for art integration, whether or not you are one, being brand new to it, just maybe barely dipped your toe in. A two would be you've dabbled with it, you have some experience, but you're not feeling fully confident. And a three would be you have plenty to share. You could co-present this with me right now on the spot. And we may even have you help at some point in this learning today. But then with your number, if you could tell me the position you hold. So are you a classroom teacher? Are you a visual art teacher? Are you, just give me some insight of who I'm speaking to in the room today. Okay, so I see lots of twos and threes. Um, I've got elementary and middle school gifted in theater, second and third grade, and you help implement our integration. Love that. A librarian, second grade classroom teacher, first grade classroom teacher, pre-K teacher, teaching artist, retired teacher. Perfect. Okay, thank you guys for giving me a little feedback. So that helps me kind of know where to spend a little more time and a little less time. So, in the next slide, I just want to do a quick review of what my interpretation of arts integration versus arts enhancement. So you guys all put for the most part that you were twos or threes, so you should be familiar with this Venn diagram. It comes from the groundwork at the Kennedy Center on arts integration and just highlights that there's three ways that the arts are taught in schools. Arts as a curriculum, so that's our visual arts, music, theater teachers, dance teachers if you're lucky. And then our arts enhanced curriculum, which is where, in a nutshell, you're using an art form to enhance a non art content area, like singing the ABC song in a very simplistic format. And then that art integrated curriculum, where you have evolving objectives in both. A lot of times you are using standards from both art and non art, and you a lot of times are assessing both art and non art content. And my big plug when I show this Venn diagram is when I first was learning about arts integrated curriculum, I really kind of, for whatever reason in my head, I told myself arts enhanced curriculum is not good enough. It's not enough. That's what I always told myself. That if I didn't make it all the way to the full integrated model, I wasn't doing enough. And I really, learning from lots of other people who are embedding arts integration or creative teaching practices or artful thinking strategies, I've really changed my thinking on that. That arts enhanced curriculum has its place and it is extremely integral and helpful. And if that's your first step into this work, bravo. Like that's still just as relevant and beautiful. Um, and then the other thing that they don't speak to specifically in this model is just that approach to STEAM, where it's more that inquiry level approach. It can be a full art integration model, but sometimes, depending if they lean more STEM based, it doesn't get to a full arts integration piece. So, part of what has really helped me learn that you don't have to do full integration is leaning into the resources from the Institute for Arts Integration and STEAM. And they have this continuum of kind of different places that you can jump into the art integration process. And from the basic level of enhancement to the higher level of integration. But I love that it shows that there's a variety of approaches to this work and it validates all of them. It's not that one is better than the other, one just may be a little more elevated or evolved than the other. And starting at enhancement is beautiful and wonderful. I think sometimes when you think you have to jump all the way to the highest level, it can be overwhelming. And when overwhelmed, we sometimes decide not to jump. And so I just encourage you to take even the babyest of steps in this work is still very productive. And then these are just the two arts integration definitions that I personally like to use or reference. There are others out in the world. So I'll just give you a minute to read both of them. And you can see the organizations that each of these definitions are connected to. Um, on the Kennedy Center's website, there are a lot of documents that dig much deeper into this definition and what those bolded, colored words mean to them. So if you want to nerd out, so to speak, on the definition itself, I would recommend digging into that resource if you haven't already. We could do a PD hour just on that definition alone based on the resources that they have. Okay, so for many of you, that would be review. And I'm going to ask you to do one of these two things to process what you just reviewed. So either one, create a physical movement that you could do on the screen. So a good example of that would be maybe like evolving objectives, right? Or two, draw a symbol on a piece of paper that you have around. I will not ask you to show that on the screen necessarily, but you could describe it. Of just what would help you remember this definition of arts integration? What's the difference of enhancement versus integration? Um, what would be the different variations of this information that I just shared on that continuum? So I'll give you a minute or so to either come up with a move that you might show on the screen. Not everyone has to show, but if you're willing, or a symbol that you could describe or show if you're willing. So as you're hopefully wrapping up either a symbol or thinking through a movement that you might be able to share, I'll just have one or two people share. I want to encourage you to use physical movement and or drawing symbols as much as possible in your classroom because the um, how it plants in the brain mentally really helps kids bring that imagery back up in necessary moments. So if they can synthesize their thinking through a symbol, it can help them when they get to a test later on to explain their thinking because they've connected that to something visual in their brain. And the physical movement does the same thing for them. So there's a reason we use these strategies. There's a lot of brain science behind arts integration. So just a plug for why it's so integral to student learning. Okay, any brave souls that are willing to either show a movement or show their symbol or describe their symbol and what it means.
I'm happy to go. Hi, I'm
You,
Allison.
Allison?
And the movement I was thinking of is kind of like this, and then you go out and then you come inside, and what I was thinking about, and sorry, I'm outside. It got all of a sudden windy, so I hope you don't hear that on the microphone.
You're
But
fine.
so I kind of think of it as like when you're looking at arts integration in practice, it looks really unified and neat and tidy, and sometimes neat and tidy, not so much, but when done really well, it looks easier than it is. And when you look inside, it took a lot of intentional teacher choices and is much more rigorous and complicated than you might think.
Oh, I love that. Could you tell every administrator in the world that? I love it. Okay, so Tom, I saw you sneak yours up on the screen. I don't know if you actually want to share, but I did see you sneak it up there. Oh, if you unmute, we can hear your description.
God, I hate it when that happens.
Me too.
Anyway, so there's like a little happy arts integration thinker right here, and and you can see that that he or she is thinking about bringing these two things together, and then where they meet, they form a third connection that was the unanticipated connection that where the real learning takes place when you are able to say, okay, understand this in this discipline. and this and the other discipline, but now I understand something completely unanticipated that is meaningful. That's
Yes,
the drawing.
I love it. I would say, can you say that to all the administrators as well? But Tom, at times you have been able to do that in some of your previous roles, and I thank you for that. You've presented in Springfield before, and we
Yeah,
loved
love Springfield.
it. Okay, anyone else? I know we have two, so I can check off the task, but if anyone's itching or dying to share it, I would love to give them the opportunity. Okay, I don't see anyone else, so I'm going to keep moving. So that was my quick review. Now let's dig into different ways for planning. Again, there's no right or wrong way. These are just the ways that I have found have been helpful to share. Um, So that first column is if we can get to true integration with some actual co-teaching and collaborating going on. Like this is the ideal situation where you have ideally a non-arts teacher and an arts teacher, whether that's within your building or outside of your building, like a local teaching artist, coming together to collaborate on both the non-arts content and the arts content standards, the most natural ways for those to plug in. You're either co-teaching in person or in separate rooms, maybe during your scheduled time with kids. But as we know, that requires multiple parties, time, and it can be really hard sometimes to get to that full level. So the next two are ways that it can happen with or without a partner. So the in the non-arts classroom, I always encourage people to think through in the art form that they think would be a great approach to help introduce, teach, reflect, or assess student learning. And if you're not sure, start with the one that just you're most comfortable with, right? If drawing terrifies you and you can't do it in front of an audience, then that's not your art form to start with. Do the one that makes you a little more comfortable. And then as you get more comfortable, you'll be willing to branch out to do others. You also can learn alongside your students. It's okay to model, hey, I can only draw a stick person, but I still can make a symbol, right? It helps students to know they don't have to be great at the process to see their teacher stretching themselves through the work. But I think the one that helps sometimes the most is thinking through where your students struggle and using that as the goal for an integrated approach or an enhanced approach. So if your students always struggle with hypothetically mastering place value, that was an area where when I was still in the classroom, my third grade teachers would always say they don't understand place value. And so I co-created an art lesson with them that helped them learn both art skills and reinforce the place value concept. But we started with where are kids struggling because that's where they need other modalities to learn the content, and especially maybe modalities that they already are excited about. Again, there are plenty of other ways to do it. Those are just some examples. And then in the arts classroom, you can collaborate with your leadership team, fellow teachers to find out where those struggles are or what additional support is needed. So a lot of times connected to middle or beginning, middle, and end of the year testing. There's some obvious standards where kids are struggling and they can let you know, hey, they're struggling with X, Y, and Z. And then you can look for where the natural fit is in your room. Um, but you also can do it all on your own. You can take the time and you can encourage the arts teachers in your, or the related arts teachers in your buildings to do this. Let them review the standards, and wherever there's an obvious natural fit, just highlight it. And then you know when you get to that point in your content, you can just slightly extend what you're already doing and create a real natural, organic, integrated approach. And then the third option that I think we forget sometimes is still valuable is integrating other art forms into your art related content. So visual art is my background, but if I took the time to integrate theater and dance and other art forms, it became much richer learning for my students. And that's still a valid form of arts integration. Okay, this one I have to give credit where credit is due. Harlan Brownlee, he's a phenomenal teaching artist out of the Kansas City area. His background is dance. He's very good at explaining dance and science connections, but he can do it in all content areas. We were so lucky to have him come work with one of our middle schools. And this is one of those aha moments again as you're on this journey of arts integration. I used to always think if I'm going to do an art integrated unit, it's got to be top to bottom art integration. The whole every day, I've got to be digging into an integrated approach. And Harlan was like, actually, I would advise you don't do it that way, that you find the most integral part of the unit to use the art form to enhance the learning. And so he felt like these were the three most obvious places, either at the beginning of a unit where you're activating and building background knowledge, you're creating inquiry and motivation, or in the middle of the unit where you're really trying to deepen comprehension, help their processing skills, or at the end of the unit where you are assessing, connecting that learning, or synthesizing the learning. And he advised just pick one of those. Don't feel like it has to happen top to bottom. And that was such an aha moment for me and me guiding this work in my district. Because again, if you can just master it in one part of your unit, it's not as overwhelming because as educators, you only have so much time. Any questions before I dig into the next kind of more detailed part of this? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So I lean to the Institute for Arts Integration for a lot of their resources for two reasons. One, they're quality resources, but two, they're pretty. And for whatever reason, sometimes a pretty resource is more better received by teachers because we always want like a Pinterest perfect classroom, Pinterest perfect plans. So I appreciate the graphic artists that have taken the time to make their resources look nice. So this is one of their larger curriculum mapping tools. So this is something you may pull out, and I have it linked later in my presentation, but you may pull out as you are just approaching a unit or a quarter, a semester, even for the whole year. And they kind of put it into four big categories, and I like these categories. I think they're helpful. The first one is I've already spoke to is like what are the big rocks or areas where kids are already struggling that you might want to intentionally embed integration into. That second area is what naturally aligns. So what's the most organic fit for building in that art integration piece? And then that third column is where you are actually thinking through, okay, now that we have the big rocks and the areas where kids need the most support and the natural alignment, what is it that we're going to actually try? And thinking through holistically, if you try one strategy during this unit, maybe you intentionally try a different strategy during the next unit, or if it's helpful because the kids already know the strategy, repetition is okay. It's okay if they know Tableau to keep using Tableau because it's fast. They already know what you're asking of them. And then that last part is what will the assessments look like for this approach? And then this gets a little bit deeper into kind of the step-by-step process also from the same organization. So just who are you going to collaborate with? What are the content and art standards you're going to use? How do they align side by side? Then actually writing some of those lessons or taking the curriculum you've already been given by your district and flipping out some of the process activities. So you don't have to change the curriculum you've been given because we all know a guaranteed and viable curriculum is a big ask right now. So you don't have to change the curriculum, just shift the activity so it's the same content, they're just processing it differently. And then how will you teach and assess it? And then here's my AI plug, which I know is dangerous. People are like, "Oh, AI." And I get it. AI is a double-edged sword. But for any of you who are you don't have someone to collaborate with, AI can be that thought partner. You can put in prompts where it helps you think through, okay, this is the area my kids are struggling the most. This is the art form I'd really like to dig into. Help me come up with strategies and ideas. And so at our last Springfield Regional Art Integration Conference, we did this game that we called Art Heist. And I can share that with you at another time if you're interested. But it was all AI helping us come up with this idea, and it was a wonderful art integrated activity. It turned out incredibly well thought out, and we used AI to be our thinking partner, even with a collaborative group. So I encourage you to help yourself with using AI. Please know your district's expectations on AI. So, for example, my district, moving into next year, there's one specific AI platform they're asking us to utilize because they've bought us a subscription to that platform and they've vetted it and they feel like it's the safest platform to use. We also will have expectations of if we use it to write an activity that will go into curriculum, we have to give it a source. We have to say AI helped us with it. So know your district's expectations if using it, but it is such a valid resource. And then my last plug, if you don't have internal partners, there are so many external partners out there that want to move this work. The Missouri Arts Council has wonderful MAC grants for teaching artists. The Springfield Regional Arts Council has funding if you're in our area. The Missouri Alliance for Arts Education obviously is hosting these monthly webinars, but they have also helped us get teaching artists in our schools before as funding's available. And we all know funding is in a dangerous spot for the arts right now, but if it exists, people will allow you to have access to it. Your local art museums or art galleries, if you haven't tapped into Crystal Bridges, they want to expand their reach and they have a lot of virtual options that they can do either self-guided or with like this with a Zoom. And they can even tailor it to the needs of your specific unit or learning if you reach out to them. Utilizing local artists. They may need support if they haven't been a teaching artist before of what this looks like, but they are the expert in their field, and we can help train them up and get them to where they are a resource in our community. And then Focus 5 will always come in and do training. They're a very strong resource as well. And then I have created just a list of resources that I lean to. Um, that I've just found over the years, and I just keep adding to this slide and putting it in all my presentations. Every time I just add another link. So a couple that I've highlighted on this side, on the left side of the screen, the one highlighted that says creative teaching strategies. This is from, I believe, Houston, Texas, and they were having the same struggle that I mentioned, that full art integration felt like too much. No one was jumping in. And so they switched it to creative teaching strategies. And it's leans a little bit more to arts enhancement, but now they're getting buy-in from administration down. Even administration is putting these creative teaching strategies into their professional development. So that's a great resource if you click on that link once you get the slides. Cynthia, should I just put the slide deck in this chat or will you send it out?
We can do both. If you would like to put it in the chat right now, and then we'll do a follow-up email and I can send it out. So I
Let's
think that would,
do it.
yeah.
Okay. Let me remember how to get to chat. It's right here. So I'm going to pop it in the chat right now, and then Cynthia can send it out as well in case you don't grab it tonight. Um, Then the other one I just want to highlight is that on the right side of the screen, everything on the right side of the screen is coming from that Institute of Arts Integration and STEAM. But they send out, if you are not a part of their newsletters, they send out newsletters in email form. I want to say once a month, but it may be every 2 weeks. And they send out a strategy. And so what I have started doing is collecting these strategies in Google. And this is shared with all. This is not like you can access every one of these. And I give them credit where credit's due, but it's a huge list of different strategies that you can start digging through. They're all one pagers. You can print them, have them right at your side. I just think it's really helpful sometimes to have a library, so to speak, to lean to. Um, so that's my spiel. Does anyone have any questions for me before I just um, share the upcoming dates? I'm gonna make this bigger. Feel free if I can't see you, because I can only see, so many at a time. You can unmute if you have any questions. Even if
This
you're,
is Tom.
yes, Tom, go ahead.
Um, are there any plans for keeping track of any research that may help drive the question, uh, how do you prove that this stuff works? Do you know
I
of
know.
anything?
Yes, I do know what you mean. I personally don't have a plan on the docket, but I would like one. That's something Harlan and I talked about because if you actually start Googling, there is mixed research results out there. Nothing negative, but some of it's neutral. And neutral is hard to convince people that this is worth the work. But I think it's because we maybe are looking at the wrong thing through the research, if that makes sense. Um, because
Elaborate.
there's a, go ahead, Tom.
Well, what do you mean? Elaborate. What's the wrong thing? What are
So
we?
I think we're sometimes only looking at test scores in math and ELA, and that is not the only benefit of arts integration. And so I think we need to expand what we consider a benefit in some of our data collection. Um, and that is just a lot of work, and it's not something I personally have the capacity to add to my plate, but man, I would love someone to pull that up. If I ever go back to get my doctorate, I'm pretty confident I will do my research in arts integration, but right now I have little kids, so I'm focusing on being a mama in my spare time. It's a great question, Tom. I want someone to do it, but I don't know. I will say there is an organization in Northwest Arkansas, connected with the University of Fayetteville, of Arkansas in Fayetteville, and they are starting to do some research, but it's not just art integration. But it is about like learning in childhood and the benefit of the arts in general, for that learning. But I'm not sure where they are in their process right now. I haven't gotten a great update from them.
Okay, well, I think it's something that we always need to be thinking about and maybe have some kind of answer that we can give to people right away. And the answer that I would always give to people is the one that Margie Van Deven would always communicate. And it's kind of like what is it about learning that has the greatest effect? The researcher John Hattie had these levels, and he said, it's just really simple. It's when teachers are energized and they look at their job as being as a collaborative whole where they work together to achieve this common goal. And that common goal is usually always has something to do with test scores, making sure kids read on level and understand numeracy and all of that other stuff. And to me, if arts integration ever can ignites a flame and takes off, that is its most effective reason for even existing, if it can ignite that flame in a school. And I've seen it happen in schools, but then if some administrator says, this is silly, then it starts to fizzle out.
You know, you know. I agree with you. I love that. I talk about all the time. We've really pushed to a kind of scripted curriculum to create this more guaranteed and viable curriculum. But I think we have to teach more teacher agility skills because that creative process for the teacher is just as valuable as it is for the student. It is energizing, as you said, for the teacher to think, how do I get from a standard to a mastery and what is that pathway? And the more they can own that process and have agility through that process, the more excited they get with the learning. Yeah, I agree. Any other questions? Okay. I don't see anyone jumping in, but upcoming learning in our area, I do not work for this company, don't think I do, but the company I've been talking a lot about, the Institute for Art Integration and STEAM, they are hosting their national conference in St. Louis this year, which is not where they normally host it. It's normally not this local. So if you are in the St. Louis region or close enough to it, it's something you might want to check out. It does cost money, but if you live in the area and you don't have to pay for maybe a hotel or travel, it could be worth the investment. So that's July 8th through 10th. And then in Springfield, we always host an arts integration conference every year. We don't have a website registration, but you're welcome to email me if you're in our area. We typically do charge an out of district fee, but it's pretty low. And if that's a big barrier, I'd be happy to work with people because we just want to support teachers. And then in the Kansas City region, there's typically the Symposium for Arts Integration, usually sometime in July. This year they haven't finalized plans, but I did put the link of where they would update. And this is a collaboration through the Kennedy Center Partners in Education that's held in that area. So Liberty Public Schools plus a multiple fine arts organizations in that area help support this work. So it's always good to know where you can further your learning, and I always like to plug these opportunities. And reach out to me if you have any further questions that you would like individual support with.
Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I always love to listen to your presentations and how you engage us in scaffolded thought work. So thank you so much. And I will send out a follow-up email with the recording from today's session, as well as those resources. So we appreciate you. And so thank you. And if anyone has any further questions, please put it in the chat. I have a few things to share with you before we wrap up today's session. And again, thank you for everyone joining us today. If you need or want a continuing ed certificate, please email me at cynthia.phelps@moaae.org. And then if you are interested, you can also earn graduate credit through our professional learning webinars and through Lindenwood University. Again, you can visit our website to get more information, and you can also email me at cynthia.phelps@moaae.org. And then please come back and join us for our final Elevate Professional Learning Webinar Series presentation. For this season, we'll be back in September, but our final one is with Natasha J. O'Brien, and she is a low vision teaching artist and professor in the area of theater at Missouri Southern State University, and that will be May 4th at 5:30 p.m. And she is just fascinating to visit with, and she will share about bridging culture, courage, and inclusion, and including adaptability in your classrooms. We always welcome your feedback, suggestions, and comments. So please share that with us. Use this QR code. You can also use this survey link, and we will send these slides out as well. So again, thank you everyone for being here. I am going to stop share. We appreciate all of you. We appreciate your support. And again, Jessica, thank you. We appreciate you so much. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great week.